I'm Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist with degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy, and a national certification in integrative mental health. In this video, I'm not looking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Maggie Thompson is presenting the work titled The Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch, written by J.J. Hurtak. Maggie Thompson is not validating nor supporting Hurtak's views, epiphanies, visions, beliefs, or words. Maggie Thompson is simply presenting the work as written and is attempting to translate this extraordinarily esoteric work to a common vernacular and understanding. Further, Maggie Thompson understands this work to be solely concerning the Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and while Hurtak views his work to be the key or keys to uniting all the world's people under one religion, namely Abrahamic, Maggie Thompson does not support this premise whole cloth. However, this work does give depth and insight into the connection of physics, cosmology, biology, and spirituality, which, for the seeker of divine truth, can be invaluable for the discovery of one's place in the universe, and that may be under the hierarchy of Yahweh, the Ancient of Days, or a hierarchy that exists above or beside such deities, or none altogether. Maggie Thompson implores all seekers of knowledge to, letter A, not accept what a person of authority tells you without validation. This includes looking at critiques and the opposing views with an open mind. Letter B, accept that religion, as well as science and politics, is presented as a means of indoctrination and is always presented with the biases of the overall field or system, the authors of texts, and the presenter, whose goals are to convince you of the, quote, truth, end quote, of their premise or premises. Letter C. It is possible to take insight, truths, and information from a biased work. Any body of work for the purpose of deeper meaning and knowledge must be carefully excavated and carved to glean wisdom. And letter D. No work or bodies of work that is believed by a large group or populace of people should be dismissed out of hand simply because you do not believe it. We live in a diverse time where religious belief takes center stage in the governing of the collected masses. To truly understand the barriers and gateways to your personal success and fulfillment, you must accept that believers of any kind can and will do what is necessary to meet their goals. All right, now that we got all the disclaimers out of the way, thank God. All right, so we are doing the Keys of Enoch. We are on part 31. So this is from the Book of Knowledge, the Keys of Enoch. This is the start of part 3. So this is key 3-0-1, pages 335 to 349. I've got a lot to say about this one. I might go off a little bit, which you guys know for me is, it's not that bad. Now, key 3 starts with an overarching key. So what he says is essentially there are 3 keys, key 1, key 2, key 3. And then he has all these parts that he breaks it down into. So today we're going to start section 3 with key 3-0-1. So this is a part of key 3. Key 3 states, The biocomputer keys to our consciousness time zone revealed to me by master control messengers Metatron and Ophanum Enoch. Then key 3-0-1 says, the key to future luminaries and the key to the, quote, divine light, end quote, is the vehicle of time translation. The, quote, vehicle of vehicles, end quote, is Merkaba, which creates, controls, and has the ability, quote, to speak through electromagnetic sinks. Merkaba revolves and goes and rises under the heaven or brightness of the next universe, and its course goes over the earth with the, quote, light of its rays incessantly into myriads of universes within the ever unfolding eternity. Clear as mud, right? So we're going to use multiple concepts, including the Force from Star Wars, to make this excessively esoteric work into something not soteric. I will be critiquing his premises as well as offering some guidance, because it's become clear that J.J. Hertog's work is the pinnacle of Christian dispensationalism meets Jewish mysticism. But before we get into it, I'm going to say hi to some folks. Auntie is here first. She says hi with 3 peace signs. Hi, Auntie. You're number 1 today. Chef Mike is here. Good evening to you as well. Also, I added your wrench on, so you now have a wrench. Adrian is here. He says, let's go. Spain Man is here. Thank you for being here. Vincent Muller is here. Thank you for being here. Cosmic Surfer TV is here. Adrian says, wait, did he say that his Mercedes speaks? He's saying something. All right, so we're going to dissect this book. We have been, to see what sort of the Christian nationalist global powers are up to. Like, what did they seem to think there's a spiritual war going on, or they're trying to make it happen, the apocalypse happen. So this book helps us break it down to see what they're up to. So today's episode is going to have some hard truths in it. Talk to me if you disagree, right? So we'll get started, but the full reading of this key is available on this channel. You can watch it before or after for deeper meaning if you want to, but you don't have to, because I'm going to read some of the highlights. So, but it is available if you want to do it. Chef Mike also heard something about his Mercedes. Okay, so let's get into some highlights or lowlights, depending. So the highlights: the souls who have reached the greatest levels of awareness and attunement with the Father are able to extend themselves through many dimensions of light in service to the many realms of species intelligence desiring to know the meaning and direction of life. This extension throughout the various dimensional realms of intelligences is done by Merkaba. Quote, Merkaba, end quote, was used by the people of Israel to describe the visitation of the hosts of Yahweh to earth, exemplified in Ezekiel's experience of the, quote, wheel within the wheel, end quote. So let's talk Jewish mysticism for just a sec. Okay. We're glad you're here too, Cosmic Surfer TV. This is the best live tribe on YouTube, and I'm so glad you guys are here. Also, shout out to the replay gang and people watching from the clouds. You can feel free to make comments, say hello. You will be welcomed as long as you're appropriate. All right, so let's talk Jewish mysticism. Hey, Snowman is here. Hey, Snowman, so glad you can have it. You could be here. Okay, so in Jewish mysticism, the Merkaba is simply the chariot. That's what it means in Jewish mysticism. Hertak is kind of making it into something else. It's the vehicle within vehicles. It's the wheel within the wheel, that we've heard about. So we'll talk more about the chariot in a little bit, but this is a prime example of how Hertak takes an already mystical concept and overworks it, overcomplicates it, adds what he believes it to be, and he uses smart sounding words and just sort of bleh, just spits it out on the paper. It's unnecessary unless he has another motive. And there is his addition of Christian dispensationalism. That's why he's changing the meaning of things. And that topic of changing the meaning of things, changing the name of things, we're going to talk about that a few times tonight. Chariot, like I said, they're Mercedes. They were saying it in Hebrew, maybe Yiddish. Yeah, it's not Mercedes, it's Merkaba. All right, so let's keep it going. All right. Merkaba also controls these thresholds to prevent lower intelligences from coming in and interfering with the Father's plan. Nevertheless, in consequence of the Merkaba appearance, zones can be created in the lower heavens, parenthetically, of which Earth is a part, that are periodically devoid of supervision. This allows aggressive intelligence from the lower orders of light to land upon this planet and display belligerent instincts towards man. He said periodically devoid of supervision. Our existence, our planet, is periodically devoid of supervision. What happened to omnipresent, omniscient, even infallible? How do we have that and periodically devoid of supervision? Because if there's a power greater than the Father that makes it to where he is unavailable for supervision, then I guess this Father is not the Lord of Lords. He's not the Most High. He's not the Ancient of Days or even the Creator of all. If there's something that can stop him from supervising, that's illogical. This is where the quiet part to me is said aloud. Yahweh is not the supreme God. And I've done many shows on that. He never was until modern style Christianity killed off all the other gods. What does that mean? A blink? So he gets, I don't know what you guys are talking about. He gets PTO? I don't know. Oh, because he's periodically not supervising. He's on vacation. Oh, that's funny. Oh, and Chef, okay, it's a blink. Like he blinks his eye and he's not there. But we're periodically devoid of supervision. And it says then these lower vibrational, these lower intelligences can come in and land on the planet and do things to us. So again, where is the omniscient, the omnipresent, the all good and all knowing? If he can't be here, if he can't protect us, I've said this many times about Yahweh. So Yahweh may be the Father or the Lord of his people or his followers, but there is an entity above him. There always has been in the writings, even in the Hebrew writings, there was a God above Yahweh. In the Egyptian pantheon, God above Yahweh. It's always there, okay? This all but proves the pantheon of gods, right? The Elohim, because Yahweh is powerless against this lack of supervision time. There were many reasons that we worshiped and believed in a pantheon for hundreds of thousands of years as humans. All the original stories of creation included Father Source, Mother Creation, and their children, the gods, the Elohim, the demigods, the Anunnaki, the Nomo, right? The gods were set to rule and govern creation. There wasn't one that was everything, okay? That's why I say Yahweh may be the Father or the Lord of his people or his section, okay? That's how the story always went. Somehow, one of mother creation and father source's kids, Yahweh, who was the 13th son, by the way. Yahweh was the 13th son, and somehow he took over and won out. Interesting, huh? Bathroom break show. He's on a bathroom break. Adrian says, them. Jesus, them yo kids. Jesus, nah, I don't claim. I think if Jesus was around, there would be a lot of that. There would be a, what are you doing? This is totally against everything I said. What are you doing? So maybe it's like in the Christmas movie, right? Christmas spirit is the energy that drives the sleigh. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like maybe the other gods got killed off because we didn't believe in them. Or, in the Christmas movie, like everybody had to have Christmas spirit and sing the carols so that the Christmas sleigh could go. It gave it power by the belief. Or if you guys saw Disney's Moon Knight, right, where the Egyptian gods started dying because people stopped believing in them. Do you guys remember that part? Hopefully you saw that series. I loved that series. I loved the Moon Knight series. But maybe that's how Yahweh won out, is that all this rewriting got it to where he was the only God people actually believed in, to the point of saying, no, 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 the Muslim God is the same God. Allah is Yahweh. See? Same God, right? Oh, Hebrews and Christians, same God. It's the same God. It wasn't in the beginning of Christianity. It wasn't until the Romans got a hold of it. And then all of a sudden, Jesus was a Hebrew, which he never was. Or Jesus was a Jew, which he was not. He was never Judean. Okay. But he was black. The description, he was black. So if that's what killed the gods that were more powerful than Yahweh, the ones who could rein him and his people in, then the opposite could be true. Then belief could resurrect them. Could it not? Every ancient story tells of resurrection of the gods. It's really something to think about. Yahweh, the 13th son of El, is the greatest identity thief. Okay. And it is his followers that carried it out. So, first, by a certain sect of Jews. Okay. And then by evangelical Jews known today as Christians. Okay. They are not like the Nazarenes at all. Chef Mike said that was some of the premise in American Gods, the series. Oh, I may have to watch that. Okay, so step one, Yahweh replaced his father, known as El Elyon, Anu, or Ra. Okay, different names in different languages, but the stories are the same. Okay, so step one, Yahweh replaced his father. There's a little bit of an Oedipus feeling in that, if you guys know the story of Oedipus. So Oedipus killed his father and married his mother, maybe because he didn't know that was his father or his mother. But that's where the Oedipus complex comes from. It's the complex of wanting to be so close to your mother that you kill your father. That's an Oedipal complex. Kill him like you don't want dad to do things for you. You don't want dad to hug you. You don't want dad to get your shoes. It's constant mom, 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 mom. Little girls have one. It's called an electrocomplex. But there's a little Oedipal, right? Because step one, he kills off El. He kills off his dad. And he then married his mother. So after he kills off and becomes El, right? Oh, Yahweh, El, same God, same guy. Then all of a sudden it's Yahweh and Asherah, not El and Inanna, right? So he married her, then replaced her, and they started calling it the Holy Spirit. She was known as Inanna, Asherah, or Isis. Now she's just the Holy Spirit, non-feminine, right? Even though in the Bible it's referred to as she. Okay. So, step three, kill off all the siblings, all the other gods who were set to rule by making it first illegal and then heretical to follow any of them. Remember in the Bible when they talk about inheritances, what was Yahweh's inheritance? His people. Who is he receiving an inheritance from? If he's the top guy, who's he receiving an inheritance from? Okay. So it's illegal, then heretical, to follow any of the other gods. This is how we're killing off the siblings. To this day, not following Yahweh can be a death sentence in some places. Isn't that it's your faith, and it can be a death sentence. It's insanity. Hi, Kareem. Thanks for being here. Hello to you as well. So, is it possible that Israel was actually a story about a son of El? Okay. That the 13 tribes were the inheritance of the 13 sons of El. Something to think about. 13 tribes, 13 sons, okay, of the Most High. Is it possible then that Yahweh's tribe, his tribe, the tribe of Judah, is that maybe his tribe? Then they may be responsible for the wars, the killing, the dispersing, and enslaving of all the other tribes, right? Because it's the same story. We're killing off our siblings, the other tribes, okay? I mean, the tribe of Judah started with absorbing the tribe of Levi. That was what they very first did. They absorbed the tribe of Levi. So let's look at the stories of Jesus. All the apostles were from Galilee, except one. Who do you guys think was the one who was not from Galilee? I'll let you guys guess. Who's the one apostle not from Galilee? There's always a pause in this. There's a delay when you do lives. And so it's like you ask a question and then you have to just just wait, right? Hopefully somebody will get it. So while you're figuring it out, all the apostles were considered Nazarenes. They were called Nazarenes, right? Not Sadducees or Pharisees, and definitely not Jews. Okay. Oh, good. The guesses are coming in. So they weren't called Jews. Jew meant you were literally from Judea. It's like saying you're a Californian, right? That's all that Jew meant. You were from Judea. Okay. So John was an apostle, Spain man. So they were not called Sadducees or Pharisees, which were the two sects of Jewish people during that time. Okay. They were called Nazarenes. Now, the one apostle who was not a Galilean, okay, was Judas Iscariot. Okay. Judas Iscariot. Iscariot means he was from Kerioth, okay, a town in Judea. He was from Judea, which was southern Palestine. He was the only Jew among the apostles, the only one. Okay. He was not a Galilean, and he was a literal Jew from Judea. So we know the story. Judas sells out Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. Okay. I'll let that sit with you. I'll let that sit with you. I'm not gonna say the quiet things out loud. I will just let that sit with you. And while you chew on that, ask yourself this. If Jesus preached against Jewry, the laws of Jewry, okay? And I'm not saying jewelry, Jewry, against the Pharisees, against the Sadducees, against all of their beliefs, all of their practices, all of their rules, everything they were doing. He preached against it. And he was a Nazarene, okay? He was not one of them. And the Romans crucified, mocked, and killed him. How did Jewry become the foundation of Jesus's teaching and was and still is controlled by the Romans? The two factions that never should have had anything to do with it, right? He preached against the Jews, but now the Jews are the foundation of Christianity. And the Romans killed him, but now the Romans get to be in charge of Christianity. What? So more food for thought, okay? So let's keep going. By the way, I want to show you this picture. Is that not? It reminds me of Stretch Armstrong a little bit. I might be showing my age, but anybody who's Gen X will know exactly what I'm talking about with that. When Stretch Armstrong came out, that's literally what it looks like to me. Okay, so I'm going to read three of these verses and then go over it. So Merkaba is the interconnection between higher intelligence operating within myriads of universes with their respective Earth systems of life intelligence on a parallel phase. We are one singularity of light within the pluralism of the divine light. The Earth is a, quote, spaceship with its rudder cut off, going around its sun system on the edge of space, completely oblivious to other worlds that have learned to evolve beyond the lip of space. The appearance form of Merkaba is given in the evolving creation in terms of what the creative intelligence will understand within its reality structure. Okay. I get tired of how all the so-called Abrahamic religions are so derogatory and degrading of humans. Do you guys notice that? Besides the fact that they're a death cult, they worship death all the way around, but they're so derogatory and degrading to humans. You're born a sinner. You're always a sinner. You're never going to be better. You're never going to get better. The only way you're getting in heaven is because of mercy, because you're dirty, you're nasty, you're gross, it's constant. You're never good enough. Never, 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 never. They're so degrading and derogatory. And so, oh, you're on this spaceship, but everybody else figured out their rudder and you guys are rudderless because you guys just suck. That's what he's saying, right? So all of us dumb, primitive primates are just bouncing around on this rock and we need Yahweh and his henchmen to come save us. That's what Hertalk is saying, right? All it costs is your body and your soul. We've gone over that several times in the keys where he is very, very clear that when this occurs, you give your body, you give your soul to the Ancient of Days through Lush. He takes your spiritual power and you give your body to one of these intelligences coming in to wear like a meat suit, like an avatar. That's what's supposed to happen. But no thanks. Pass. Not doing it. All right. Hi, Compassionate and Callous. Oh, thanks for being here. Okay, so thus, those who believe in the Father's will and desire to work with the Brotherhood are those who will feel tremendous energy changes in their body, for they are being chemically respatialized to live in a more active light environment. So essentially, it's the rest of us can get bent, okay? You either give up your body and soul or F off, go away, die. He said several times you die, so. Okay, just more of that. The rest of you can die because humanity is terrible. Okay, and I learned much regarding the consciousness evolution of the Merkaba vehicles whose sole purpose is to turn all grief into great joy and liberation. I just told you Merkaba, the word Merkaba means chariot. And he says Merkaba vehicles whose sole purpose is to turn all grief into great joy and liberation. Merkaba in ancient Jewish mysticism is the chariot. It is not a minivan that comes and picks the brotherhood up, right? The white brotherhood, the great white brotherhood, right? It's not Yahweh sending an Uber to take us to him. Well, not us, his great white brotherhood, right? Remember, the rest of us can suffer and die, for all he cares doesn't matter. Anyway, the Merkaba is an ancient practice. It's the chariot that takes you somewhere, okay? For having a visionary, like a vision quest. In Judaism, it's a visionary ascent to the divine throne. It's a vision quest, okay? It all starts with Ezekiel. He has a vision where he sees a storm cloud of fire and 4 creatures emerge from that storm cloud of fire. The storm of fire, the storm cloud of fire is the Merkaba. It's the chariot, okay? Kind of like Norse mythology, Odin, it's the same visionary thing. He has a chariot. He's riding a horse. He travels through the storm clouds. He leaves a trail of fire, okay? I bring this up a lot, that there is a lot of ancient mythology that's almost exactly the same in spaces that were very far apart. So there has to be, to me, there has to be some truth in there somewhere. We didn't have telephones or the internet. How did we all come upon these things as truths when, we couldn't talk to each other? So, so the 4 creatures, right? Beside each creature is an ophonym. And you've heard her talk about ophonym, right? So beside each creature is an ophonym, okay, which is a wheel within a wheel. When they talk about, like, if we actually saw angels, how they describe them in the Bible, they would be scary because they look like monsters. Yeah, the wheel within the wheel that's covered with eyeballs. Yeah. So the whole thing, the wheel within the wheel and its turning rotation and the entirety of the wheels are covered in eyeballs. Okay, that's an ophonym. That's an angel. So in this story, you have the 4 creatures. Each one has their own ophonym, a wheel within a wheel. And then there's this firmament above them. And above the firmament is the throne. Okay, so then there's a man on the throne, and he's surrounded by light and fire. Okay, so you got this visualized in your head. So this was the vision of Ezekiel. So the practice of Merkaba is to get to this vision. It's a vision quest, right? He says, at first he's talking about, like, it's a vehicle, right? That's going to take the Great White Brotherhood to Yahweh. And then he said that the vehicle is to turn all grief into great joy and liberation. He's changing what things are, changing the definitions, okay? So the practice of ancient Hebrew practice of Merkaba, the mysticism, is to get to that vision. It's called Yored Merkaba, meaning descending to the chariot. Okay, like descending, and you go inward, right? We hear this all the time. Meditate, go inward, right? You have to go inward to get to God, all these things. So you descend into your own consciousness. Now, in this practice, you go through 7 different heavenly places. You got to make it through each level, much like what Mary Magdalene talked about. Anyway, you got to get through all 7 levels, and then you stand before the divine in his throne. Okay. Mary Magdalene had a vision of these. She wasn't Jewish either. She wasn't Hebrew in that way. She wasn't practicing this ancient mysticism, but she had a vision of that. Now, Paul told her she was crazy. So, no, I'm sorry, Peter. Peter said she was crazy. Okay. And then Peter and Levi went off to form their own group, which is the group that won out. Okay. Now remember, Levites got absorbed by the tribe of Judah. Anyway, so to do this practice, it required intense purification. So days and days of fasting, specific prayers, specific rituals and ritual bathing, extreme isolation. And you also had to know all the passwords for the 7 places. You had to know the cheat codes, but they called them passwords, right? So you had to know the passwords for each of the 7 levels. Okay. Now, her talk changes this chariot of inner wisdom, right, from a divine experience to a vehicle of moving folks from one place to another. So, this process, which we might today call psychological integration, is much bigger than Yahweh's soccer mom SUV coming to pick people up. Okay. Um, this process, which we hopefully can do without all the incessant bathing and fasting, hopefully, right? It's about shadow work. That's what we call it today. Shadow work. It's about the concept of yin and yang, right? Yin and yang, balance, about the union of opposites, about your masculine and feminine, your logic and intuition, and your spirit and matter, finding the balance in all of those things and your place in it. That's what it's about. That's what it means to have elevated consciousness and awakenings, right? You know, the thing that the powers that be do not want us doing, not at all, right? They've even made the term woke a bad word, right? I don't know if I shared with you guys, but just as a side note, in my day life, I got turned into HR for this specific channel. And the complaint was that it was woke. That was the complaint, that I had a channel and it was woke. And this person was attempting to get me fired for having a woke channel. Now, luckily, HR told that person that what I do in my private life is my business. So it didn't work out. But they've made, for somebody to actually think they could get somebody fired for woke content, crazy. Adrian says, I'm 2.5 minutes behind. Sounds like someone needs to get opium drugs. Maybe that's what it was originally. Maybe that's what it was. Is the Merkaba a vehicle of liberation? Right? Or is it a limo that's sent to bring us to our assimilation? And resistance is futile. Not sure which one. Okay. Then it says, Arise, O Israel, and present yourself before your beloved one who calls you by the name of his love, Israel reborn. You know, the best lies are the ones that contain some truth. Right? So before her talk turned the Great White Brotherhood of Light into some Aryan Abrahamic fever dream, we had heard of this before. When I say we, that might be the royal we. I'm going to share with you where I had heard of it before. Okay. It wasn't from a white man, actually. And it was from Thoth, the god of wisdom, the Egyptian god of wisdom. So definitely not a white man. He wrote the Emerald Tablets, and he gave man writing, mathematics, and the concept of mystery. Isn't that neat? Thoth taught that while he could live for hundreds of years, after he died, he would return each time humanity needed wisdom. So he would live for hundreds of years when he was alive, but after he died, if humanity really needed wisdom, he would reincarnate. This is where the Greeks merged him with Hermes and named him Hermes Trismegistus, right? The thrice great. That's what Trismegistus means, thrice great. So 3 times they say that he was incarnated at that point, okay? So this is the foundation of Hermetics and Hermeticism. Now, he taught Thoth about a brotherhood of light, right? Of awakened masters who the masters are filled with white light. This is not an Aryan Abrahamic fever dream like it's being turned into. But the white supremacists had to get a hold of that because they totally thought, or they totally bought into that Egypt in Africa was not black. So they get their little Aryan dream, right? So theosophists like Helena Blavatsky absorb it into her theory of theosophy of root races, saying that we are living in the time of the Aryans, the Aryans who descended from the Neanderthals. She said that. It's not just me. She said that. Hitler said that. Lots of Aryan people have said that. Okay. It's not just me that says that. And that anybody who is melanated is leftovers who didn't evolve. So she took something from a black god of black people in a black country on a black continent and turned it into the great white, meaning Aryan Brotherhood. And that's the version that J.J. Hurtak is using. Okay. So it's kind of ironic because she's vocal that all of her theories are based in ancient Egypt, right? And yet still somehow places white people as the pinnacle of evolution. White people haven't been around that long, okay? So a man named Doreal, Doreal is his last name. He goes and he's searching for the Emerald Tablet. He hears from the Brotherhood of the Golden Dawn. By the way, this is a time when there was constant clubs, right? There's different clubs. We have the Rosicrucians and the Masons and the Freemasons and the Illuminati, and this one is the Brotherhood of the Golden Dawn, and everybody wanted to have their own club with their own little secret handshake. Okay, so Doreal hears from them that they have some of those tablets, right? He's looking for the Emerald Tablet. Doreal they say that he can read them and write about them, but he can't have them. So he goes to meet with them and he's looking at these tablets. It's not the Emerald Tablet. So Doreal, he takes what he read, he infuses it then with the Eurocentric theosophy, right? Because they're coming in on the back end of this. He knows about this from Blavatsky and her version of the root races and the great white brotherhood, meaning not filled with white light, but being white, being Aryan. And he infuses it with Eurocentric theosophy, and that's how we get to where we are now. So when we read about Thoth or even Hermes Trismegistus, we have to take into account the source of the writing, because these people thought the ibis-headed Egyptian was a white guy. So these are great things to read about. Make sure where you're getting your information is not from a theosophist. So not Blavatsky, not Doreal. Find other ways. Okay. All right. So I'm going to read from Parkei de Rabbi Eliezer 24. This is a writing. This is a Hebrew writing. Okay. It's a early medieval Hebrew midrash. Okay. Quote, he blessed Shem and his sons, making them black and comely. He's talking about God's interaction with Noah's sons. Okay. So he blessed Shem and made his sons making them black and comely, and gave them the habitable world. So everywhere it's habitable. Okay. He blessed Ham and his sons, making them black as the raven, and gave them all the sea coasts. Okay, so we got two kinds of black. We got comely means beautiful, good looking. Okay, that's what nice to look at. That's what comely means. So Shem, they're black and good looking. Ham, they are dark. They are black as ravens, right? They're very, very dark. Okay. So Shem, they get the habitable places. Ham, they get all of the sea coasts, right? So I guess we're assuming Shem got, the inner intercontinental, right? Then it says, he blessed Japheth and his sons, making all of them white, and gave them the deserts and fields. So, black as the raven. The raven is the Mesopotamian and Hebrew bird of wisdom, of messengers, and of the unknown, of the mystery. The raven, the ibis-headed god, right? So, the ibis is the Comedian bird of exactly the same stuff. So Thoth, the ibis-headed, was a dark black man bringing messages, wisdom, and the mysteries of the unknown. He was a Hamite. Okay. So in philosophy, the Merkaba represents a model of reality that is geometrically structured and dynamically conscious. Okay. The Merkaba bridges this gap between form, or what we would call the matrix, and the formless, which is like divine consciousness. It's the bridge between those things. That's why I was saying it's the balance of spirit and matter, logic and intuition, yin, yang, feminine, masculine. It is going inside to do those things. And that's what it's called in philosophy. Okay. Hi, Leon. Leon says, I heard a story about a queen, I think, that asked another kingdom to take birds, but she had poison or something attached to the birds. I don't remember that story, but that sounds like a good story. Birds were used a lot by ancient royals, especially in Nubio-Kemetic areas. Vincent says, my mom was white and my dad was black. I know Michael and Satan personally. They both fear me. I'm indifferent. Okay. So in her talk's rendition, this Merkaba ascension helps you to become a licensed driver in Yahweh's hierarchical structure. He's literally talking about driving these Merkaba vehicles and how to make them go, how to power them, right? So this is a far cry from Thoth, who supported achieving conscious sovereign freedom through going within. That was his liberation. That's exactly how it is liberation. It's personal liberation. It's not Yahweh's soccer mom vehicle. So I'll say this. We can all breathe though, okay? The most radical act of sovereignty is to remember that you are here now in a body that can feel the sun. It can feel the wind. You're not a case file in some deity's cabinet. You never have been. You are not a soul who's born behind on some kind of karmic payment, or born already a sinner and haven't even taken a breath. You are not a variant who's awaiting justice in some kind of TVA way. You, as Thoth said, are a luminous light field being having a human experience. That's it. You who are listening to me, are a luminous being having a human experience. So we dissect this book and many other things on my channel, right? Not to find the right master to serve or which master we should be serving, but to remember our own innate power, our own innate wisdom and insight, right? We learn not to just submit to the powers that be, but to learn the game and then transcend it. Okay. Remember, you are the creator of the story, not the subject of the story. Yes, that is the tree of life behind me, Leon. It's very, very big. It goes to the ceiling. Yeah. So your value is inherent and unchanging. This messy, beautiful, painful, and joyous journey of life is not some kind of test that you have to pass. It is a masterpiece that is in progress. It is the greatest opus. It is the biggest novel. It is the best work that you will ever create as an artist, right? And it's in progress. It's in progress. Each page is written each day. You are the main character and the author. That's what I want you to know. All right. Thank you for listening to me tonight, and thank you for being involved. I appreciate you guys so much. This coming Sunday, we're going to be finishing up with where are the missing Hebrews? How did they hide them? Where did they go? I'm not saying they're all the Hebrews. These are missing Hebrews that we're going to talk about. It kind of fits into what we were talking about tonight a little bit. And I will have Adrienne Hicks on as my guest again. So I really, really hope that you guys can be there this Sunday. And if I don't see you this Sunday, I hope to see you next Wednesday, where we will continue on with more Keys of Enoch. And I'm going to show you guys a picture of my dog. Please like the video if you haven't already. It really helps the algorithm to know what kind of things you like. Share where you think it's appropriate, especially to someone who you think needs to hear it. And don't forget to check out some of the wilder Pivot Point Wednesday shows. And last, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to break down complex concepts that make the esoteric not so teric, helping you on your journey to become your most authentic self. By subscribing, you'll join a community that thrives on curiosity and growth, and you'll never miss out on insights and some wild discussions. Let's uncover the universe together.